皆さん、こんにちは。カテリーナです。Hello, everybody. This is Katerina, and welcome to a radical lesson. So, as you may know, the radicals, or these little parts that look like symbols, are a very necessary part of a kanji when we're writing kanji. That's why you can see here that the radicals are actually the kanji building blocks. Instead of having to memorize how many strokes a kanji has, or how am I supposed to write it all if it has like 18 strokes or something like that, it's better to remember the individual parts that a kanji is made of. Today's radical, so today's building block, one of the most basic ones, is this one. Okay, the position is always on the right. In Japanese, this is called tsukuri, but you don't really have to learn that. Just remember that it's usually used on the right side of your square. So I have gone ahead and blocked out the unused space. There is a meaning for this particular radical, and the meaning is sword. You will find this radical, as I told you, is one of the basic ones in many kanji. So now I'm just going to show you a few kanji, starting with the an N5 kanji, so the Japanese language proficiency test, or N5. Right now, I am going to show you a few kanji that are using this particular radical. I'm going to show you kanji from the N5 level of the Japanese proficiency test, so the first level of the Japanese language proficiency test. And then I will go on and show you a bit more complex kanji using this particular radical, and we'll go from N5 to N4 to N3, N2, and finally N1. Let's have a look at our first one. So the first kanji that I'm going to write down here is the kanji that means before or in front of. And as I told you, this is for the N5 level. And the way that this is written is as so. Do you see a radical here? It is on the right side of our box. Yes, it is under this roof, this part, but it's always on the right. This is pronounced as mae. Okay, mae. Going on to an N4 kanji, let me write this down here. We are going to look at the kanji for separate. Separate. Okay, so the way that this is written, again, we're thinking tsukuri on the right side. This is where I'm going to put my radical, but the left side goes as and then our right side, our little sword. Fantastic. And this is pronounced betsu. Betsu. Okay, let's go on. Let's look at another kanji. This kanji is for Japanese proficiency test level N3, so the third level, going upwards. So more complicated things, more complicated ideas. This kanji is a kanji for example. Example. And let me write it down. It actually has 3 parts. So starting from the left, I'm going to draw going to the right. Remember, we are talking about this particular radical that is going to be on the far right side of our square. So let me write it down. First part. Second part. Third part. And you can see our radical here. This one, the example in Japanese, is pronounced re. Okay, let me write it down actually in katakana since this is an onyomi. Re. Okay. And moving on, something more complicated, N2 level. I'm going to draw or write the kanji for drama, as in a theatrical play, so the play. And this is written as such. Bear with me because this is a pretty complicated one, so I'm just making sure I'm going to write it right. So, starting with this, I'm going to do it like that. Okay. Being careful to be as balanced as possible. I made a mistake here. It's okay. Okay, and moving on. And I haven't written a radical yet, so I'm just going to add it here. Fantastic. So this is pronounced geki. Again, I'm going to write it with katakana, as this is an onyomi. And geki. The play, the drama. Now, let's go on and write our last kanji using this specific radical. It's for the N1 level of the Japanese language proficiency test. And this one is the kanji that is used as a suffix. It means, let me just write it right like this, made in, like made in Japan, made in America, made in China. Okay? Let's write this down. Okay? Okay, our radical will go here. Okay, so the top right square. Okay, and then finishing up this kanji, I'm just going to write this, this, and this. This is pronounced se. Se. Again, I'm writing it in katakana, since this is an onyomi, let's say. Okay, made in. So let me just center this as much as possible. So our radical sort, one of the building blocks for all these kanji, it can be found at the right side of our squares. Sometimes, yes, it needs to go a bit lower, like in the case of mae, or it can be higher, like in the way of se here. Always we can find it on the right. Exceptions to this, there are just one or two kanji that are using it on the left side, but for now let's just focus and say that this will probably be located somewhere on the right. Okay, so next time that you are going to look at kanji and be like, oh my god, this particular kanji, for example, geki, has 1,000 strokes, how am I going to